Good morning, everybody. How you doing? It's Dave TV, DCRTV.com for the 25th of November, 2012, Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend. One big month, one big fat month until Christmas. So I actually did a Dave TV for yesterday. I did one for yesterday, and I got at that old. If you were a computer freak back in the 90s, you remember that old Wolfenstein game, or early 2000s, whatever. I remember Wolfenstein 3D. It's very, very crude graphics these days, but I had a lot of fun with it. Well, I got it on an old XP laptop that I hadn't used in a while, and I noticed Wolfenstein on it, so I decided to play it. So I got it addicted to it, and I'm sitting there, shooting the Nazis and opening up the secret doors and getting all the weapons and stuff, having a grand old time. And so I decided to shoot a Dave TV yesterday evening, and I was pretending I was in the basement of Clear Channel's 1801 Rockville Pike complex, hunting down the people at DC 101, Hot 99.5, and then I went into my let's go through the archive bit, and then after finishing it, I actually did post it up to YouTube, and then I thought to myself, you know what? Somebody's going to read this the wrong way. I'm just having some fun here, but somebody's going to say, Dave's advocating shooting up Clear Channel. I went, you know what? Better not. So I thought, in this PC environment today, I better take that down. Even though it was a joke, it's just a joke. Honestly, I have to say, you want to talk about Clear Channel for a second here. I don't think their stations are particularly great in terms of really cool, quality homespun radio. They don't do that, at least here in Washington. But what they do is they do run 5 stations, 5 major FMers. They all have good signals, and they all have, solid formats that get ratings. Okay? Then you got to say that about Clear Channel. They got DC 101, a solid active rock format, and not active rock, alternative-y rock format. Gets good ratings, has quality talent. Not great, but they're solid. Okay? Thank you, Elliot. Hot 98.5 ditto. Kane, good quality, good solid morning show. Not great, and a nice cooking, contemporary hit format. Gets great ratings. Wash, again, a solid format. Lou and Laurie. They do what they do well. They get great ratings, especially around Christmas time when they play the Christmas tunes. MZQ, sagging a little bit, but they have their ups and downs. But again, a quality country format. They do really well. Their stations do really well. Am I leaving somebody out? Yeah, Big. Again, it's not a great station, but they do well. But so Clear Channel has 5 major FMers in the Washington area. They all have good signals. They all do well. They all have solid formats. I don't think you can really say that about any other major broadcaster in Washington. Now, Hubbard, they have TOP, and that's their cash cow, and that's it. One significant station along with WFED. So they really don't have a total, they don't have a totally made out cluster here when you're talking about maybe one major station. But when you look at the other clusters and the other companies in Washington that have multiple stations, CBS is just struggling. They have bad signals. They have questionable formats. They're struggling, incredibly struggling. JFK just, doesn't get the ratings it used to get. WNEW, despite a fairly decent format, has not a great signal. They just can't get any traction with that old newser. Fresh is starting to show some life these days, I think, because they're kind of tweaking it more and more to sound like Hot 99.5. I honestly think Fresh, they ought to just call it Now, make it a full-blown contemporary hit format, and just, that seems to be what they're doing with it, and at least getting some ratings traction. But, there are other stations. The stations just, they have a lot of problems that Clear Channel doesn't seem to have in the Washington area. Clear Channel is solid. CBS has a lot of problems. Whatever. Cumulus, they're down to 2 signals in the market, basically 2 stations, and both of them have problems. You got to say Clear Channel, for just being a, solid performer, 5 good stations, 5 good signals. Hey, what do you do? No, they're not quite as that great in Baltimore. They got some problems in Baltimore, but we shall not talk about that. All right, so what I want to do today was what I was going to do yesterday. The failed effort was to go into the archive, okay? So I do have a big pile of documents in there. And I thought, so this is what I pulled out from the DCRTV archive here. This is one thing I truly value a lot. This is a letter from George Michael from 2005. And his Painted Acres farm up there in my horse farm in Comus, Maryland. Congratulations on another year of growth. Everybody quotes you, and you have people nervous by getting it first. You make people nervous by getting it first and right. Keep up the news, George. Yeah, great. The late, great George Michael. Really cool guy. So thanks, George, for that. And this is a really nice little card here. Remember Bob Duckman, another radio great. Bob Duckman. And he's just saying, hey, thanks for a wonderful site. This is the logo for the Eastport Yacht Club in Annapolis. So that's cool. Okay, this is a really cool one. A special note of thanks from Walt Starling there. And remember Walt used to do the, everything's dropping. He used to do the Washington Quarter Century Broadcasters Dinner every year. It was late October usually over there at the country club there in Bethesda. And it's really nice, all the people, just a nice gathering of cool people that have been in the, mainly radio, but a lot of TV people. And he did it every year. And, it was a nice time, a really nice time. And then they kept it going a couple years after Walt passed away. But no, it's just not being done anymore. This was his obit. I dug this out, too. On-air traffic reporter Walt Starling dies. This was from the Washington Post in January 2005. It's amazing to think Walt's been gone since 2005. That's a long time. That's 6, 7. I see my math's going. Almost 7 years. 7 years. Wow. 8, almost coming up to 8 years now. But a really cool guy. He used to do remember the traffic planes? He'd fly that plane around. And Cessna 172 from 1974 until 1995. He folded his 6'4" frame into the cramped cockpit of a Cessna 172. Wow. I remember meeting Walt. We had lunch at a local restaurant. Him and Morris Jones. Apparently they're good friends. Here's another interesting thing. Look at this. Here's Cheap Seats column, Dave McKenna. Remember the infamous Dave McKenna in City Paper back when City Paper was kind of a good paper. About Dan Snyder getting into the radio biz. Of course, Dan, the owner of the Redskins now, owns major sports talker here in Washington, ESPN 980. WHUR cancels Real DC. TC, Tony, and George. A nice thing about this is a Washington Times article from 2006. And it actually mentions DCRTV broke the news. So that's cool. You don't see that much very often. And this is interesting, too. I printed this out. This was from the New York Post. I don't get a lot of mentions in the New York Post, but this we did. Page 6 column. This was back in 2003. Opie and Anthony, blah, blah, blah. Opie and a bunch of Opie and Anthony fans. Blah, blah, I don't know, some crazy writing, but they actually did give us a credit, so that was cool. The New York Post. This is interesting. This is Johnny Dark. Right there, you can't see it. Johnny Dark's 50 Golden Years in Radio. Okay? And you look at this, and it goes, it's inviting me, or whoever gets this, to an event July 25th, 2003 at the Strathmore Arts Center in Rockville, Johnny Dark's 50 Years in Radio. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is July 25th, 2003. What's next year? 2013, right? So that means that's going to be Johnny Dark's 60th year in radio. Wow. Wow. Now, Johnny, last we heard, well, Johnny was doing the morning, what was he doing? I don't know what day part it was. He was working at WTTR in Westminster. I think during the afternoons, was it? I don't know. But anyhow, and he left there and vanished. Did he? But, he's around somewhere. So let's hear from Johnny and celebrate his 60 golden years in radio this summer. So that'll be cool. And what else do we got here? Washington in the 70s. WETA presents it. This was a couple years ago. This was 2009, I believe. But the interesting thing is they did use a couple of graphic images from DCRTV. I think some old HFS stuff. And so if you watch the credits, and they do rerun this every now and then. In fact, I saw them rerun it last month or so. They do rerun the 70s. I think they have a 60s version and maybe an 80s. I don't know. But anyhow, they have a 70s version. And if you watch the credits at the very end, you'll see DCRTV listed amongst all the other contributors to the show. So very cool there. All right, folks. That's some dive into the archive today. On a very slow, it's a very, 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 very slow Thanksgiving weekend news ratings. Last year we had WNEW. CBS had announced they were going to start WNEW. All news are back. They made the announcement the week of Thanksgiving. So we had a lot of news cooking around Thanksgiving. All that with the WLZOL move and all that. And this year, it's slow. There's no format. Hopefully, things will pick up in December. All right, folks. Thanks for watching Dave TV for this Sunday, the 25th of November. Book 'em, Dano.